Okay, I was a bit verbose in the last video, so I'll cut right to the chase this time. Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords, is not a good game. What it is a potentially good game. I'll try to explain, but first let me apologize for the lack of gameplay footage in this video. You see, because of how temperamental and buggy this game is, I couldn't finish it. I mean, I finished it before in the past, I just couldn't get the gameplay footage this time. So that said, let's get this over with.
LucasArts was overjoyed at how well Knights of the Old Republic turned out, so as you can imagine they wanted a sequel. BioWare decided to turn them down because they were busy making their next title, Jade Empire, but being nice guys, they offered the job to some friends of theirs. See, there was this other game company called Black Isle Studios, which is still considered the savior of the computer role-playing game because they made the Fallout series, and also helped create the Dungeons & Dragons Triforce of Baldur's Gate, Icewind Dale, and Planescape Torment. The company basically got screwed over by their producer, Interplay, and by the time KOTOR came out, the studio was shut down. Lots of the staff created another new company, Obsidian Entertainment.
So this is a company created by a group of talented game makers with a proven track record in computer RPGs. Sounds like a solid deal. What could possibly go wrong? How about a game that doesn't feel finished, the plot just kind of runs out at the end, nothing is resolved, and is bugged out the ass?
First of all, getting this thing to work is a pain and a half. It worked only half the time when installed right off the disk. Then installing the official patch made it unable to find the disk. Then I installed an unofficial patch which made the game work again, but now and then my character won't move after combat, forcing me to quick save and quick load the game to get him moving again.
I have never played a game this bugged before, and I swear I find new problems every time I play it. Not to mention all the times it crashed.
What the hell? Oh crap, where's the play button? There we go. This time out, we play as one of the Jedi who joined Revan and Malak in the war against the Mandalorians, as told in the first game, but was the only one who returned to the Jedi to face his crimes rather than just becoming a Sith. Stripped of his title as Jedi and his connection to the Force, he was left in exile to wander the galaxy. Unfortunately, after the events of the last game, the Jedi are almost extinct. Is it just me, or does that happen a lot to the Jedi? And the Sith assassins hunting them down aren't being too picky anymore. After waking up on a mining station taken over by murderous droids, the exile is forced to escape with the help of a smart-mouthed smuggler and the mysterious Master Traya.
Wow, that almost sounds like the start of a bad Star Wars action comedy series.
That would be a decent enough intro level to the game, but the pacing of the story is way off. Your character fights through some killer droids in his underwear, finds the ship from the last game, the Ebon Hawk, and narrowly escapes the Paragus mining station and the nastiest looking Sith yet, Darth Sion. At this point, we're 3 hours into the game, but it feels a lot longer. Then you land on Citadel Station, thankfully not the Citadel Station from System Shock, where someone goes and steals your ship. After helping either the obviously good or obviously bad factions on Citadel, you go to the surface of Telos to try and find your ship. There you fight your way through a bunch of mercenaries and smugglers, and eventually find one of the Jedi counselors who stripped you of your title, creating a new academy with a harem of albino warrior women. Hot.
Why is it that everywhere we go, I end up in a cell?
After some verbal sparring, you get your ship back and learn that 4 other counselors are still alive. Thus begins the real story. Finding the last Jedi Master so you can unite them against the Sith, or kill them out of revenge and steal their secrets. And the game takes 6 hours to get to this point. I know you had to dick around on Terrace and get your training on Dantooine before the game world opened up in the last game, but you had an idea of what was going on, and all this running around before the real story opens up seems like needless stalling. And even when the game world opens up, it's not even that open. In the last game, when you landed on a planet, you were still able to go back to your ship, leave the planet, and check out another one. This time, when you pick a planet, you better make damn sure that's the one you want to go to, because chances are you're not going to be able to leave until you finish the plot there. Let's take Onderon, for example. This is a pretty cool planet embroiled in its own civil war, threatening to secede from the Republic thanks to some Sith secretly fueling the uprising. When you get there, the planet is under blockade and you get shot at by the secessionists, damaging the Ebon Hawk and forcing you to land on a moon occupied by a Mandalorian clan. Coincidentally enough, they've got a ship that can slip through the blockade and take you along, but only after you prove your worth. So you run around the jungle killing stuff until you're worthy enough, get to Onderon, and try to meet their contact who can help you find the Jedi Master inside the besieged castle. Of course, your contact's got his own problems, and you need to spring him from jail, only get chased off the planet before you really get anything accomplished and have to go back later in the game. I'm sorry I don't have footage past this point in the plot, because the game kept crashing every time it loaded the level after I sprang the contact. What, again? Oh, come on. You'll also notice early on in the game that it likes taking the main character away from you, forcing you to pilot around another character or party member for a while. The best example of this is when you send in a droid to steal information from the Zerka Corporation on Telos, partly because the droid moves at an almost Benny Hill speed, but to succeed you need to convince another droid to rebel against his human masters, leading it to run amok blasting the guards. The worst examples of this gimmick happen in Nar Shaddaa, where your character gets kidnapped not once, but twice, and you have to choose some support characters to come and bail you out each time.
What an amusing Jedi specimen you are.
Way to make me feel like a powerful Jedi, Obsidian. And while we're on the subject, the game takes forever to put a lightsaber into your Jedi hands. The idea is you gave up yours after being stripped of your title, so you have to get the parts to make a new one. However, this takes a lot longer than it should. You'll probably have to finish one of the 4 core planets before the game coughs up enough parts for you. And by this point you have 2 other Jedi on your crew, and neither of them carry lightsabers either. Okay, Vysis attacks you with a saber and she joins you after you beat her, but her saber gets broken in the fight? Oh come on, that's just cheap. And I still don't know why Vysis joins you after you defeat her. I guess Jedi loyalty follows the same rules as Pokemon.
Okay, gotta calm down. There's a lot here that doesn't work, but Obsidian really did make an effort to make improvements on the original game.
For a start, the inventory menu is vastly improved. You can now sort your gear into manageable categories like weapons, armor, quest items, and data pads. The item upgrade system is expanded with more armor, weapon, and lightsaber mods, but you can also break down old useless items for parts to craft into useful weapons and items. And the items you can craft depend on your character's skills. A high repair skill can make better weapons, while a higher treat injury score lets you make the more powerful medkits. This eliminates the minor problem the original game had of running out of computer spikes and repair parts, because now you can craft new ones. Also, you can give your characters a secondary weapon configuration, allowing you to swap from a ranged weapon to melee if the enemy gets too close with the push of a hotkey. You level up much faster in KOTOR 2 than in the original, and you can break the previous cap of level 20 by midway through the game. This unlocks the more powerful Jedi prestige classes like Sith Lord and Jedi Watchman. Haha! Pun. The thing I like most about KOTOR 2 is the cast of characters. These guys are just a lot more interesting than the previous crew, though a lot less trustworthy. Though everyone aids you to the end, they all seem to have dark secrets that you need to unravel to truly gain their trust and unlock their special talents. This leads to the dubious influence system. Performing certain actions while a character is in your group will affect how they feel about you. Do something they approve of, gain influence. Do something wrong, you lose it. This system can be incredibly unforgiving, especially if you're trying to get to the dark side and drag your team down with you. I can see what Obsidian was going for, but in the end it's just a silly juggling act, swapping out party members before and after you do certain actions just to gauge their response. The upshot to all this is unlocking more of the rich backstory, and 4 of your crew can be trained as Sith or Jedi if you do it right. That's probably the most rewarding thing you can do in this game. Gaining the character's trust and turning them to the dark side is such a deliciously evil payoff. The character interactions are as good as they were in KOTOR, but I think Obsidian has a better sense of humor about it. Nobody on the crew really gets along with each other, which leads to some bickering, but there's always a joke or two inserted. Most of the interactions play out when you return to your ship. If a lot of time has passed, you might end up watching 3 or 4 mini cutscenes. It's nifty, but it can be really annoying if you aren't ready for it and you're just trying to save your game in the safety of the ship. So there are some improvements over the original game, but some of the new stuff just doesn't work. Right off the bat is the interface. While the layout is a bit better than the original, it's all in this monotonous gray and black. It just doesn't stand out and looks boring. There are certainly a lot of new items, clothing, and character models that look nice, but take a look at this pathetic background art. This is just a couple steps above having a solid color skybox. HK-47 makes a triumphant return to the game, and his dialogue and voice acting has improved significantly.
And my central control cluster seems to have taken several repeated blaster shots at close range. How crude.
Actually acquiring him is a bit of a pain, but having a humorous killer droid is worth the reward.
You are like a delightful random cruelty generator, Master, poisoning all you touch with your presence. You are a testament to all organic meatbags everywhere.
Sadly, his presence in the game highlights one of the worst problems with the game: missing content. Throughout the first half of the game, you have run-ins with the HK-50 assassin droids hunting down the Exile. They're clearly modeled on HK-47, but he has no memory of being copied. talking to the copies and the original reveals that someone is mass-producing these droids and sending them after you, and HK talks about trying to track them down and stopping them so he can protect his street cred or something. Unfortunately, this never happens. This is another major problem with this game. Certain plots are just not there or condensed.
Now, I can understand features being dropped if you just don't have the time and resources to develop them, as seems to be the case with this game, but you can't cut out vital plot elements from a story-driven game. It's like trying to climb down a ladder and then running out of rungs halfway to the ground.
And it's a shame because the game actually has a good story, in my opinion. We dealt with the near extinction of the Jedi in the movies, but actually playing as one of the endangered species gives you an extra sense of purpose. There are multiple stories going on in this game, which admittedly is a bit too much and hard to follow at times. Your character is trying to learn why his connection to the Force was cut off after he was exiled, and why it returned when Kreia joined him. At the same time, the player is trying to find and defeat Darth Nihilus and Darth Sion, the Sith trying to kill all the Jedi. We've also got Atris, one of the Jedi counselors in hiding, who thinks she's the last true Jedi and sets up her own secret academy. I love this because it's the Fallen Paladin story. She's so convinced she's the last good guy that she's gone off her rocker and perceives all the other good guys as threats. On top of all this is Kreia, the mysterious Jedi who appoints herself your teacher as you regain your connection to the Force. As it turns out, she's the real villain in this story. Kreia is actually Darth Traya, and was originally teamed up with Nihilus and Sion. They're some kind of special group of Sith that feeds off Force users, so they hunt down Jedi until Sion and Nihilus betray her, and then she tries to track you down because what you did at the end of the Mandalorian Wars opened up a wound in the Force, and that's the real reason you lost your connection to the Force, and
I'm sorry, but this whole part involving Darth Traya really pisses me off. We see bits and pieces of Kreia sneaking around and manipulating characters, so it's easy enough to guess she's up to something. But actually piecing it all together involves gaining influence with her and then asking the right questions, which is the hardest thing to do in the game because she's so hard to please. And even when you figure it all out, she still stabs you in the back and takes off, leaving unanswered questions. Her whole betrayal seems engineered to stretch out the game by another 2 hours. Really, I'm just mad that I had to read Wikipedia articles to figure this all out, even though I played the game to completion several times. And this kind of plot twist shouldn't suck this much. Treya's motivation basically is that she's grown to hate the Force and wants to kill it, which would have the side effect of ending all life in the universe. That's an epic doomsday plot, but because of how disjointedly the game tells it, it doesn't work. And just because I can nitpick, Darth Traya? Really? Ugh. I know there's a prison planet in Star Wars called Despair, but when you have the character who betrays you named Traya, that just sounds stupid.
Obviously, things didn't go smoothly for Obsidian's first time out of the gate. They've since claimed that they didn't have enough time to finish the game they wanted to make. The timeline seems to suggest this, as the game came out for Xbox in December 2004, and the PC version was released 2 months later. That's barely a year of development time, and considering the game just seems to run out of plot at the end, I'm inclined to believe them. I will say that Darth Sion is my favorite boss battle in the game, because you can reason him to death. The last time I saw that was with the Master in Fallout. There are several restored content mods and patches out there, including one I tried for this playthrough, but none of them are 100% reliable, as you've seen here. The last attempt to make a universal restoration mod was by a group called Team Gizka, which actually fixed a lot of game problems but refused to release their mod until it was perfect. And getting perfection from KOTOR 2 turned out to be impossible, as the group fell apart before the final release. Also, the cut content I've seen so far is a lot of extra fights that just stretch out the longer sections of the game even longer, so I can't recommend any KOTOR 2 mods for you just yet.
So that's the Sith Lords. Overall, a lot of potential, but unfinished and disappointing.
I know, you're crushed.
If you really, really like the original Knights of the Old Republic, I can give a tentative recommendation because there are some improvements, and what plot you can unravel really is interesting and exciting. For everyone else, I'd suggest staying away unless you have a lot of patience. And this is the last Star Wars universe game I've ever really played because frankly, I've just about lost all interest in the franchise. I have a hard enough time trying to watch the original trilogy because there's this nagging voice in the back of my head that's telling me episodes 1, 2, and 3 are still out there. Now, there are some other Star Wars and Jedi Knight-ish games out there, but I really can't be bothered. Sony Online screwed Star Wars Galaxies Beyond Redemption, and I just never could get excited for The Force Unleashed. Probably because its story tries to tie the original trilogy to the prequels. Plus it sounds like some god-awful Jedi wrestling match. I'm sorry, but the Star Wars universe just doesn't hold much appeal for me anymore. It would take some kind of miracle to get me excited about.
Statement. Oh yes, my master had quite the collection of tortured individuals that seemed unable to confront their basic personality conflicts. Let me cite some specific examples. Mockery.
Oh, Master! I do not trust you! I cannot trust you or anyone ever again!
Mockery.
Oh, Master, I love you, but I hate all you stand for. But I think we should go press our slimy, mucus-covered lips together in the cargo hold.
Conclusion. Such pheromone-driven human responses never cease to decrease the charge in my capacitors, and make me wish I could press a blaster pistol to my behavior core and pull the trigger.